It's Wednesday, 22nd of May, 2024, and this evening's show, we will be reacting to the furore surrounding next season ticket prices, also looking at the upheaval in the coaching department. As Iain Brunskill departs the club, the retain list, and also the announcement of the fans forum this coming Monday, which has no doubt been arranged to try and quell the discontent amongst the fan base at the moment. I'm John Aspinall, and this is the Seaside Podcast, Extra Time Show, Season Ticket Gate. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Seaside Podcast in the closed season. An extra time special. There's been a lot of news drop in this week, gents. So I think it was an executive decision that we come on and give our considered thoughts, Tim, eh? Nice hair, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's ungelled and straight out the shower after my walking football session that Raggy keeps taking the rip out of.
Are you just trying to make Yaggy? Are you just trying to make Raggy jealous with that nice, if you would?
It's his political campaign haircut, isn't it?
Anyway, before we start, it is of course an extra special anniversary today, isn't it? It's 14 years to the day since we got promoted to the Premier League, isn't it? 22nd of May.
Certainly is. It is.
Yeah.
Wow, that long ago.
I know. It's scary.
Time flies.
Not much in between.
There's a lot happened the last 2 weeks. That was the last 2 years, I think. Only at Blackpool.
Right. So, as I said in the intro, we've got quite a lot of things to discuss. Try not to fiddle with your bits, Nick. We'll get a bit of noise there.
Sorry, but
he's playing with himself, isn't he?
That cheap microphone stand you gave me fell apart just before the show, so I now have to hold my mic.
Best dip into the club funds and buy you a new one, then.
Yeah, I'll use my season ticket money.
You won't have much change. Right, everybody. Welcome in the comments. Thanks for joining us. Do feel free to pipe up throughout the evening. So let's kick off then with season ticket prices dropped for a few days ago now, and there's been a bit of a backlash, to say the least, Tim, hasn't there, since they got announced?
Yeah, I mean we've obviously had a couple of difficult seasons, and to be fair, I think I was probably expecting a modest increase in prices, possibly, and it. I'm not saying I welcome that. I was hoping it was going to be kept the same, or if not even a bit cheaper, because we want to try and keep numbers up. And the way things went last season suggested that we needed to incentivize people to keep the 5-figure crowds that we've sort of become expect. We start to expect, and that atmosphere that size of crowd creates is very important for the match day experience, and particularly. No doubt was reflective in the fact we had quite a decent home record. So when this dropped, to say that it was a surprise was an understatement. First of all, it was a surprise because there was absolutely no communication from the club about what they were proposing. And listen, I know BST have taken some stick for meeting with the club, but that communication seems to have tailed off significantly. No doubt something to do with the criticisms raised over the Seaside is Forever project, which nobody's ever heard of anything about since. But we would have thought that even if it wasn't us, that there may have been some form of sampling of fans or requesting feedback before these prices were released, but there doesn't appear to be anything. And in fact, I think even Steve Rowland has come out on AVFTT and said that he wasn't consulted about it either. So the first that we all knew was when this drops, and there's this. It's staring you in the face. What's wrong with it? We think we pride ourselves at BST, and I know the Armfield do a load of stuff for the Muckers, and BSA do stuff all centred around getting the young fans engaged. And it just looks to me like, the decision's been made that they're not paying enough, and they are by far followed by the Mariette Brigade, a little degree, and I jest a little bit there. But the targeting seems to be towards increasing child, youth, and the cost for families attending games. And it was I was gobsmacked is the first expression that comes to mind, and then to be honest, really angry afterwards, because we work hard with our version of the gold bond to try and get young kids engaged, because once you get them, you keep them. We've done shirt initiatives, and then this is like it's just cutting the legs from underneath any initiative that we as fans and the club should be working on to try and capture that important age group before they become Man U fans and Liverpool fans and God knows what else. So gobsmacked, followed by a lot of anger, to be honest. Amongst the BST committee, we spent the next sort of 24 hours trying to work on a response, which obviously I know that we'll go on to discuss. But I couldn't believe it. Genuinely couldn't believe it.
Let's bring the voice of reason in with his views now. Nick, is it a fan over reaction? Is it a bit OTT, or what do you think?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a case of it being a vocal minority. You look across social media, and pretty much everyone is echoing what Tim said. You look at, like in my category, 26 quid over the course of a season, about £1 a game. I can kind of understand it. That won't stop me renewing. But if I had a couple of kids, it's potentially a different story. And like Tim says, that, if you get kids at the right age, you've got them for life. And you've potentially now got a situation where you've got parents having to say to the kids, we're not going to be able to go. And they'll soon probably sit and watch Man City, Liverpool on Sky Sports and be pestering the parents for one of their kits rather than a Blackpool kit. It just seems and we've seen later on this afternoon, there was the interview that's come out explaining the logic for it, and it's all about driving revenue. And I think the increases are so much in some areas that people are just not going to be able to afford to go. So you're not going to drive revenue because the people aren't going to be there. Simple as that. They're not going to be buying a season ticket. They're not going to buy probably match day tickets on a game-by-game basis because of the prices there. And they're not going to be in the ground. So you're not going to get the secondary spend, particularly from kids where they're pestering the parents every 5 minutes for a hot dog or a packet of crisps and a drink or whatever. It just seems counterproductive. And on the back of, ultimately a disappointing season last season and a poor season the season before, this was a great chance to try and have a bit of a reset, really, and do something that was going to not just make people renew, but maybe the people who were on the fence a bit because of the style of football, go, do you know what, at that price I'm going to do it? I'm not saying daft like 100 quid. You can't demand dirt cheap season tickets on one hand and on the other be saying, oh, by the way, we want to get promoted. There's got to be a balance, but I think the balance has tipped too far to the point where people literally are not going to be able to afford to go, and it won't just be about if we make some decent signings. You could have Harry Kane up front. If you can't afford to go and take your kids, you can't afford to go. Not that we play him up front; we probably play him at left wing back, but you know what I mean. It's I think it's literally got to that point where people are just going to have to make that decision that they can't go anymore. And we've talked many times about it's not an affluent area, and we just seem to be putting hurdles in the way at a time when we should be making it easier for people to go and to keep those fans for the future. It's weird. You look down the road at, obviously I work in Preston now, and couple of Preston fans in the office, obviously, and we were talking to them about their prices, and I think the equivalent ticket in my category is less than £300, and they've frozen it for the following season as well. So straight away, you're getting people going, right, there's something there, and we just seem to be putting hurdles in place. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Nick, yeah, Tim, I'll just bring you back in next. You've got something to say there.
Before we unleash Raggy, I just to really reinforce that this isn't being overly dramatic. And this is actually in the BST statement, but just to give people because some may not know and not realise what the impact is on kids and families. So you want to go in the family stand for a game next season. Last season, if you went in, it'd cost a dad or a mum and 2 kids £30 for the 3 of them. This year, there's 2 categories of game now, of course. A category 1 game, which is the cheaper category, is £43, so that's a 43% increase for 1 parent and 2 children. And then if we want to go to a category 2 game, this is in the family stand, bear in mind, this is before we get to going elsewhere. It's now £51 instead of £30. So it's a 70% increase for, one of us who wants to take 2, if we've got 2 youngish kids between 5 and 11, it's now going to cost 70% more to sit. For instance, if you want to go to the Bolton game, if you want to go to probably Wigan and whatever else is viewed category 2, and that type of increase gets replicated right across. If you want to go in the north or south, from £42 to 51 for category 1 and 59 for category 2. And ditto for under 18s as well. That's gone from £12 to either 17. This is if they're aged over 14, 17 or £20. So either a 40% or a 66% increase. So when you compare that to the increases that the rest of us are facing, I think Paul Williams has mentioned he's in M Block. It's something like 5%, which not ideal, but you can understand the rationale with national minimum wage going up and whatever. The targeting of the increases to young children, young adults, and families is, frankly, it's a absolute disgrace.
Hard to argue, Maggie, with that statement.
Well, no, you can't argue it, and that's one of the saddest parts is that I've not heard in the last 48 hours anybody argue the other side. So they've managed to somehow upset 100% of Blackpool fans, as far as I can see, which is nothing short of a joke. Just going back to one of Nick's points before by this price increase on children, but then Swansea Julian decides to say, well, there isn't that many anyway, so it won't really affect that many people. So where are they making the money from? It's no sense behind it at all. 2 things that I've always been passionate about: how we're going to get young kids involved in this football club for the future, and B, about how they come up with a payment plan over the course of a season or a year that people do not have to go through some credit check, because the majority of them people just can't get it anyway. And I've seen that firsthand of people that have tried. Now, I know BST are trying something. Hopefully that comes off, but they shouldn't have to do that in a million years, but every credit to them. In terms of the kids, I mean, I don't know why targeting kids. There's no sense. He didn't make any sense with his rationale behind it before. They should be targeting kids all across the town. I've been through it a million times, all things they could do with the schools. The amount of people that come, and people have to get rid of this notion of a lot of people in Blackpool aren't from Blackpool. Well, that might be the case, right? But let me tell you who is from Blackpool. Well, you could pretty much guarantee 95% of school children were born in Blackpool, and there's about 16,000 of them across the town, ranging between the ages of 5 and 14. Because I looked it up before, I think it was 16,840 on current records. Well, the majority of them will be born in Blackpool. So why are we not trying to turn them into Blackpool fans? And I've given ideas out before to various people at the club as well about them going into the schools, talking to these, having BFC days, dishing out tops, memorabilia, things like that. And it's all right saying about cost, but if you can't tell me, if we serviced 11,000 primary school children in the town with a Blackpool top, I know it's been done before in terms of a particular year group, but we went for the 11,000, say. Now, I know that the club, they're not paying 40 quid from the shops of India to get these tops. So I don't know what they're getting them for. Let's say a tenner. That's £110,000 if we gave everyone a top. So new come out every 2 years, so about 55 grand a year. Well, if we can't get 50 local businesses all running under the banner of Blackpool Football Club to sponsor £1,000, and Blackpool Football Club facilitate that, take all the glory for that, and the plaudits that would come their way, then we could do it, couldn't we? It's ridiculous to think we couldn't. Some companies, I'm sure, some businesses, some organisations have put more in. And what a great thing for the whole town to get behind. And then you coincide that with, they say they've got a good working relationship with the council, coincide it with BFC days across schools, send players in, more than once a season. Training camps, put the community trust in. Well, I'm sure they do these kind of things, or try and do as much as they can anyway. But there's just one idea. Now, I know that there won't be anyone in that football club thinking like that. There'll be a few of them sat in there on six-figure sums, not from the town, don't care about the future of this club. You can see that from, I've met Mr. Winter before, hence why I call him Swansea Julian, because the first time I met him, he told me 3 times in the first conversation that he was from Swansea, or he'd come here from Swansea, as if it was some sort of favour to us, which is ridiculous, which my response was, who the fuck is Swansea? You're at a proper club now. But they don't get this. We're bringing people in. They all think we're punching above our weight. Where's that coming from? Why are we allowing that to happen? We've got so many things, so much history at this football club. Better than most in the country. Could match most clubs in the country for our history. And they're not using it. And that's born off people, good Blackpool fans, children that have become Blackpool fans as adults, taking their children. We did a massive thing across this town to save that football club. And for that idiot to come out today talking about benefactors and stuff, I take it as a veiled threat, as if you didn't have a benefactor, boys, your club would be nothing. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Winter. This club will survive long after you and anyone else has left it, because these fans will ensure it like they've done before. And they'll find a way, no matter who says what or thinks what, they will find a way, because it's Blackpool. It's our town, our club. And we don't step back. Everyone's wanting Mr. Sadler to achieve and wants Simon to do the right things. And he's done some great things so far. But let's be fair, we've gone backwards for 24 months now, backwards. It's been terrible football. To come out and say that it was positive this year, the product, by the way, the product. Yeah, our football club you're talking about, the product, and are we just the customers? To say that was positive last year is an absolute joke. Must be blind. So for me, he's not interested in the growth of this club. He doesn't know his arse from a biscuit, and he can go back to Swansea for me. He needs to go. And Simon needs to understand that. He's not going to like hearing it. He's not going to be the sort of person that takes anything like this because I think he's quite a ruthless man at the top, it seems, and it's his way. But listen, you're hearing it. That's how I feel. And I don't know whether other Blackpool fans feel like that, but I think probably they do.
Judging by the comments that come in.
The fight against... Yeah, but you can either fight against it, you can fight against all the Blackpool fans all the time. A special club that are invested more than anyone probably does frustrate an owner more than any other owner, because we are so invested and we do want to know all the time what's going on. That's because we had a real genuine chance of losing our football club. And people fought tooth and nail, top to bottom, in various things. Some people went to court, some people stopped going to games, some people just caused a bit of a nuisance, some people processed it outside ground. Everybody collectively did something to save that football club. And whether that was with outside help or bringing help, people put it down to Bellicon. Sure, you. If certain Blackpool fans hadn't been around, Mr. Bellicon would have long gone before he even came back to help save the club. So everyone needs to remember that, and all Blackpool fans listening need to remember how good we are. We do not deserve to be spoken to like he's come out with, as if they're doing us some sort of favour. It's a joke. This is a town of working class people. We do not need thrown in our faces about millionaires and billionaires. If you've got the money, great. What a luxury it is to buy Blackpool Football Club. Great. Well, get on with spending it. If you haven't got it, you're not prepared to do it, don't. At least just say it. You're from Blackpool, Mr. Sadler. You know the people of Blackpool, you should do. We're all straight talking. We all just want to hear it as it is. If we can't do it, we can't do it. But what we won't accept is not doing it because of stubbornness and people's idiotic decisions on what tickets and what the future of this football club is going to be like. Because the future of this football club would be nothing, because there will be no children coming with what you've done with this season ticket farce and the way you've switched an entire fan base. But luckily for us, we are Blackpool fans and we know that we'll be all right in the end. But I suggest that somebody sits down, takes it on the chin, turns it around and says, no, we might have made a mistake here, and do something about it, and some positivity, because it's beyond a joke, and we're not taking it. It's a disgrace.
If you remember, Raggy, when the interim board came in, Michael Bolingbroke made a mistake in my view. Well, in most people's view, we actually had a consultation, and he decided at the end that he was only going to do cheap kids' prices in the family stand, but he hadn't thought through the consequences. And we had a little bit of uproar, nothing like we've had in the last 48 hours. But I basically sat down with him and said, "You've got to change it. You've got to change it," and he did. To be fair to him, he wasn't happy about it because he genuinely wanted to make the family stand something special, but he didn't think about the impact of breaking up family units who all watch the game together. And once he understood it, once he got it, he changed it. And there is an opportunity here for Simon and Julian to realise that they've dropped a clanger with this, because it's the biggest clanger that I can recall any owner dropping since Oyston decided to start suing fans. And even that didn't get everybody on the same side. It got majority. This has got literally everybody saying this is not right.
Yeah.
And they've got an opportunity. They can change it. It only got announced on Monday. It could be changed on Friday, Thursday or Friday. And I think everybody would respect the fact that they've listened to what the concerns are, and the genuine concerns. It's not, don't bother me. It don't affect me one iota, but it affects Blackpool Football Club. It affects Blackpool Football Club because it's the future. And saying that there's only a few under 11 season ticket holders, so it doesn't basically matter, is another disgrace.
Should we have
it's embarrassing to it. If they know that, it's even more embarrassing. And the fact is that the legacy of Simon Sadler, because he said he wants to be here for decades, what should be that we have 20,000 average crowds by the time I left this club. That's what I'd be doing if I was him. How are we going to do that? But there'll be nobody tasked with that. And certainly people like that Winter are not even slightly interested in that.
So if everyone watching this hasn't seen the Radio Lanks interview, which Andy Bays has done, we've got it available there, and we'll have a quick listen to it. Everyone can make their own judgments about and what they think about what was said. So let's just bring it up and we'll have a quick listen.
Let's talk about season tickets. Yeah, I think it's fair to say there's been a reaction from a certain level of supporters. Supporters groups have made statements. Some supporters who go on social media have made statements, but we can't speak on behalf of all of them.
No.
But the groundswell of the opinion that I've read is not particularly favourable in terms of match day pricing and in terms of young people's ticket prices. Can you talk us through the whole process of how the decisions on all of these pricing structures are made?
Or individually or collectively? I'm going to talk collectively. So, listen, it's incumbent upon me as chief executive of this football club that we find ways to drive revenue and manage cost, right? So we run what I describe as a benefactor model, where the owner writes a check, has done so every year for a number of years. And I think it's important that we collectively as staff work out how to drive additional revenue and to manage the costs, so that we're not constantly going to the owner, Simon, saying we need more money. Right. So, in essence, the whole season ticket increase program was brought about by that thought process. How can we drive additional revenue and still create a good product, because we want everyone to enjoy that product. As I've said on a number of occasions, we're here to put a team on the field that the fans enjoy, and we can have success collectively. So as a consequence of looking at all the things that make us money, we're looking at ways of them making us more money, and alongside that, managing some costs. So that's in essence where we are. I still think, you know, the product will still be good. The product has been very good here, in my opinion, in terms of results and performances. But we can't lose sight of the fact that this club costs a lot of money to run, and the owners continuing to write a significant check every year. So collectively, we're looking at all the additional elements of revenue, different concepts, different ideas, different initiatives that will come up that will help us to drive new money.
I totally appreciate you can't lose sight of all those facts, but can you also not lose sight that we're in a cost of living crisis? We're in a deprived area of the country, and these people are being expected to find more money from somewhere and perhaps give up something else in their life to come and watch Blackpool. But
also the football club is a party to all those changes as well. So we've had a national minimum wage increase as of 1st of April. So we've applied that. We likewise, everyone else, the additional cost of living is applied to the football club in a big way. So gas, electric, utilities, they've all gone up. So we're all affected by the same things. As I say, we have to find a way to navigate through that difficult time, but we've also got to find ways to drive revenue.
Money's going up for 5 to 11-year-olds to come and watch football, Julian. I'm struggling with that. I don't understand when children of that age, and I'm a father of children who are older than that now, but when they started watching football, it was really cheap to give them something to get a hold of it and get a hook on watching football. Do you think it's fair that we're expecting families to spend more money, and significantly more money, for a 5-year-old to go and sit and watch Blackpool?
Look, I understand what you say, right? So everyone's circumstances are different, but ultimately, we can't provide everything for free, which you wouldn't expect us to. And you know, our pricing was was very cheap. And if we look at what it costs to take families out in Blackpool and do other things, it's not an unreasonable situation, is what I would say. Admittedly, the increase is a large one, but I don't think it's an unreasonable cost in the scheme of things.
When you first came to the decision to make these prices the way they were you expecting a backlash? Perhaps is strong. For some people, it's a backlash. Some people are saying we're not going. We can't afford to go. Yeah. Were you expecting that?
I think in any football club where a football club applies an increase, you get a backlash. I think it's universally accepted that people will not be happy with any increase. But to my point earlier, you know, we can't just sit here and continue to do nothing where all our costs are increasing and our revenue doesn't grow. If our revenue stays flat and our costs are increasing, it's just a bigger check at the end of the year for the owner to write. So we have to bear that in mind.
What about the whole argument of if it is a little bit cheaper, there might be more seats that are being used, and actually it makes more money than if you sell 7,000 tickets at one price?
So I think last year we didn't utilise our initiatives that we can do we can do 4 initiatives through the year. We didn't really do any last year, but we'll be doing them this year for sure.
Why not? Why didn't you do them last year?
I don't actually think it was ever written into our plan from the start of the season, whereas this year it will be. So we will drive initiatives. We're open to, we get the option to do 4 per annum. We will do that this year. And on top of that, we'll think of other initiatives to think more creatively about young people and how we offset some of that. So I don't have the answer specifically for you here, but it's certainly a thought process that as we go forward, we've got to try and be a little bit more creative.
Would you agree that they're the future of the club, these sort of 5 to 11-year-olds who, if you get them interested at that age,
undoubtedly,
they might want to come back?
Yeah, undoubtedly.
And that brings us back to why it's difficult to understand why that age and up to the age of 18, I think, are being penalised perhaps more than any other area, isn't it?
Yeah, but at this stage, there's a very small number, for one thing.
Sorry, a small number of season ticket holders, you mean?
Yeah, in those age categories.
Okay.
So we'll see. Look, I can't give you all the answers here, but we've got other things that we will do alongside. Season tickets have gone out. We've got initiatives to drive, and we'll work out what they look like.
The match day pricing structure itself as well, that appears to be quite a hike. And in some cases, if you want an adult ticket, you're going to have to part with more than £30, and in some cases, 40. That's a lot of money, Julian.
Depends where you sit, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does. But for League One football, that's got to be one of the most expensive tickets in the country, hasn't it?
I don't know.
Do you think it's expensive? Would you pay? We're in a very fortunate position, Julian, that we're all sat in a room here in the media industry. We're paid to watch football and paid to be working in football. Do you think it's realistic to expect people to be parting with £30 and £40 per match to come and watch football?
Yeah, but we're in control of when it's up to those sort of levels. So there's there's category 1 and category 2 pricing. So it's how often we use the category 2 pricing. That's the question. So as yet, we haven't planned which ones we're going to use it for. It will all depend on the fixtures, when they come, what day of the week the games come. So there's a lot of factors to apply. But at the end of the day, I still think it'd be good value.
Would you pay £40 then to watch League One football, Julian?
Well, depending on where you're sitting, the £40 one is sitting in one of the best seats, isn't it? So depending on where you sit.
Okay, take 5 off then. Would you pay 35?
Well, it depends on how your club is doing, and that's the point. We have to produce a product here that gets people enthused and gets people engaged, and people will come and enjoy it and pay the money that's required to be here.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you can't commit to a season ticket because you're not going to be able to come on that number of occasions that you think I'll come on a match day, if it's a family of 4 and it's a category 1 game, before you've bought a programme, a burger or anything else, you're parting with over £100. And for local people of this area, I think they're going to find that a staggering amount of money. And I get that you can go to the pleasure beach for the day and spend more than that in a day. I totally understand that. But this is football. This was once known as a working man's game. Are we still in that area now?
Well, we are, yeah, because parts of the offer are much cheaper. It won't be at the levels you're talking about for every game. That's a certainty. So, yeah, we've got to do our work. We've got to build a team here, build a product on the pitch that people want to come and be part of. So that's the challenge, right? Pricing, as I said to you, we can dance around all day. That one of the central revenues for the football club is ticketing, right? So we get ownership contribution, we get central distributions from the EFL. The next biggest revenue for this football club is its ticketing. So in context to what I've said to you already, we have to work hard at being able to generate more revenue. Despite the challenges, that's the way we are.
One mentioned Paul Venels in the comments. Where's that gone?
Just why you're trying to... Oh, go on, yeah. I didn't think you'd find it that quick. I mean...
It's annoying, isn't it?
If I can be the counsel for the defence here, I don't think he believed a word he was saying. I think he looked incredibly... Paul Williams mentioned the comments. I think he looked incredibly uncomfortable trying to justify the unjustifiable. So I will say that, but there's some astounding comments in there. I mean, we've given the examples of how the pricing impacts on families. Nothing to do with sitting in M block or in the 2 rows either side of M block, which are where Andy was quoting the prices for. And before we go any further, great shout out for Andy, because I know we give Radio Lancashire a bit of stick sometimes about being Radio Blackburn, but I tell you what, he's nailed that. He's covered the questions well. He's given Julian an opportunity to speak, and the reality is he can't justify what he's saying. He can't justify the club policy. And and to be fair, he did come in slightly towards the not right at the beginning of the season, as I recall. But why didn't I've forgotten about it, actually, to be honest. Why didn't we use those initiatives last year when we needed a big crowd to try and lift us for a game? Why didn't we make it a quid a kid or whatever we do? I'll tell you what, for me, what this is all about, this is trying to mug off the away fans. And we had it out with them last year. And they didn't even put it in the minutes for the meeting. And this was before Julian's time. Me and Ashley Knowles called them out in a meeting. I think Raggy was there. You might remember it. And it was cut out the minutes completely because we said, do some reciprocal pricing. Start with Reading, first game of the season. They won't bring a lot. You won't lose a lot. But we will get the same when we go down there. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't entertain it. And I said, it's the people who go to all the away games who you are actually impacting here because they're already paid a fortune and we're never going to get any discounted. Because I think Reading had even suggested it, if I remember rightly. They were the first one to suggest
20 quid, they said.
Yeah, Reading do it. Reading do it.
And they wouldn't do it. And it's another disgrace because that's affecting, those that go to every away game where if you can get like a tenner back here and there, it's a nice, it sort of makes because there's been some woeful scenarios with our away performances last season where people have spent a lot of money and they wouldn't do it then. And this just smacks of the same thing. The match day pricing is all about trying to maximise what we get off the away fans. And the way we do that is to make our walk-ups incredibly expensive. But they think we're all going to have season tickets, but Phil's all over AVFTT, isn't he? But Phil's got lads and he brings them to games, but he can't always justify having season tickets if you don't live in the town. So you are going to be paying walk-up prices. And if you've got a husband and wife with 2 kids, it's a wonner to get into the game. That's what you're talking about. Basically 100 quid before your secondary spend starts. And that's just not right on any level.
Something else about the last meeting I went to at the football club, he repeatedly said, when questioned on I've only been here 6 months, so I've got to get my head around it. Only here 6 months, as he was told on the night. Only a CEO in a job for 6 months should know the place inside out in 6 months. He's using it as an excuse out of his depth. I don't know whether he's here just as a front man to take the stick or whatever, but he's not fit for purpose, in my opinion.
The main
why do we not know what others are charging? Because
he's not fit for purpose. No
competition
idea.
Competition analysis, Tim. That's what that is known as in the corporate circle.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me was just listening to talking about the product. It's a bloody football club. It's not a product to us. It's been our lives, and I don't get. All right, the logic is we're driving revenue, but the pricing isn't geared towards driving that revenue because it's at a point where, like I said before, people are just not going to be able to afford to come and dismissing the kids saying, well, there's not that many of them. Well, why are you putting it up so much then? It doesn't make sense on any level. And Tim, I know you said before there's a chance to reverse this and put it right, but listening to that interview, it doesn't sound like that's something that's even going to be a discussion at board level. It's almost like, well, that's what it is. That's the product. You don't like the price, you lump it, and it's not like you're going to a supermarket and something's too expensive. You go in a different supermarket. You don't just go and change your football club. But it's at a point where people just aren't going to be able to go. It's it was like watching a Tory politician on a show on a Sunday morning just floundering and not being able to answer the question. It was really poor.
The other thing to bear in mind here is, and we've all been there, loads of people who will be listening tonight will be the same thing. When you first take your child to the football, quite often they aren't interested. And it's a slow burn sometimes to coax them to games, to get them there, and then when the penny finally drops, they're normally about 7 or 8, and when all the mates start getting to it, aren't they? When the penny finally drops, what it's all about for them, and different ages for different people sometimes. It's a fantastic. It's one of the best things ever when you know that your lad or your daughter is going to be a Blackpool fan for life, because they've got so many other mates and other uncles and aunties trying to get them to follow other teams and whatever, and it's so important. And if you price people out of being able to do that and then to take them along, my eldest lad Sam, who's obviously been on here a bit, he used to play with his tractors on the east paddock when I first took him. He wasn't watching the football, but you persevere, and then all of a sudden he starts watching it. And I know John's probably the one with the newest experience, and Raggy's probably got it to come. But it's your lads don't just, and your lads and your daughters don't just start loving the football the first time they ever turn up. If they do, that's great. But the vast majority, they need working on, and that means that
my boy playing with me a few games last year.
Yeah,
Critch Ball's actually putting Eddie off again now. Tim, he got the ball, but a season of Critch Ball has really put him off going. He doesn't want to go anymore.
Put most of us off going. Never mind the kids.
So it's funny when Nick when Nick was saying earlier that it's going to be a real kick in the bollocks for a father to tell his son he can't afford to pay for him to go anymore. I think Nick Eddie would be rejoicing if I told him he didn't have to go anymore.
But, joking aside, there is probably going to be that situation where people genuinely want to go. I get it. It was boring last season, but not everybody will necessarily base the decision on not renewing because of Critchley. There will be people who want to renew or who weren't renewing, but we're going to do the game by game option. And like you say, the price of that, and then to say in that interview, well, it depends where you sit. It's just so dismissive. And like I said before, no one's saying just do it absolutely dirt cheap. It's got to be. It can't just be all on Simon Saddle to write the check. But doing it this way, it's not going to do what we're hoping to achieve. I don't think. I suppose we'll see in season ticket sales, but I just can't see it. I can't see it working. And there are so many different things they could do without, like I say, doing it absolutely dirt cheap. Just do something at a price point that makes it affordable for people, and also there's enough people renewing that it means we can have a competitive team. And we do want to try and go up, so we can't expect the owner to fund all of it, but it just seems so counterproductive, what they've come up with, and based on the logic that they want to drive that revenue. It just doesn't make sense to me.
They obviously haven't heard about elasticity of demand and pricing, have they? Which was like you did in level economics, isn't it? If you put the price up too much, the number of people attending will go down. You lose all your secondary spend. You keep the people in the ground. You get them spending money, and you make up any perceived shortfall you might have. I mean, those kids always have drinks. They have go buy chocolate bars. They've gone and got a hot dog. There's all sorts of and they want a kit. They quite often want a hoodie or a hat and a scarf. All this is revenue into the club, which doesn't come in if those few under 11s that we allegedly have are discouraged from going.
Not to mention the future spend when they become lifelong Blackpool fans, which is my point about Simon saying he's going to be here for decades. Then what? It's long term.
Empty stadium. That's what's going to happen.
What
impact?
50 plus.
If this doesn't change, then what kind of an impact do we think it will have on season ticket sales?
I think they'll go down by 2,000 more.
Yeah, and you've got the double whammy of Critch Ball as well, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, that's we were only discussing before, wasn't it? I was saying 3 very good friends of mine are absolutely adamant they're not buying a season ticket. That was based before this. That was based on they're not watching Critchley's football anymore. So that was bad enough. Throw this one in now, they'll have zero chance of convincing them to do it.
I generally think we could be down to 7,000 season tickets, which is incredibly disappointing because, bar the pandemic period when obviously crowds were affected for reasons outside control, it's been so great to actually have. I mean, other than the 10 to 14 years ago when we were riding the crest of the wave, so to speak, of being in the Premier League or fighting near the top of the Championship. In my lifetime, we've never had regular 5-figure crowds, and we've had them for the last 2 3 years now. All right, championship, you understand it, but I was incredibly. It was incredibly positive that we kept the numbers up last season. Listen, the home record wasn't bad, but the product that Julian's talking about, in inverted commas, wasn't great. It really wasn't. And if you think it's great, you've got a problem, because that was poor. It was poor at home. And I tell you what, and your best indicator of how poor it is at home is the reaction of the kids. If the kids aren't enjoying it, it's poor. We're used to watching rubbish. We've been there donkey's years, haven't we, and seen it all. But when the kids don't want to watch it, it's not good. And these are the people, we're using the comparison of going along the promenade and taking them to a show or taking them on the pleasure beach. That what you're getting with that.
Guaranteed a good day at the pleasure beach, Tim. You're guaranteed a good day.
100%. I was going to say exactly the same thing. You are not guaranteed a good day at Bloomfield Road. Maybe we were 14 years ago. And then we had every kid in Blackpool kits wanted to go to games. It was fantastic. I used to coach at the time. Every kid used to turn up with a Blackpool kit on. Everybody wanted to be a Blackpool fan. They don't at the moment. And so what we're doing is penalising the parents who are trying to coax the kids along to cement that relationship that we've all got with the football club, and we want them to have with the football club. It is the most mind-numbingly stupid policy. I can't even think. I can only think they didn't think. I can't think that they actually thought this was a good idea. I genuinely hope that isn't the case. And hope that Michael Bolingbroke made his mistake and held his hand up and changed it. They've got to change it, and they've got to change it now, because it won't just affect the kids going. There's going to be some adults who are going to make a stand over this, and as well as those who weren't going to renew anyway because of the quality of the product. There's going to be people who will say, well, I'm making a stand over this and not going. I'm not saying it's going to be a boycott or anything like that. I'm going to say, but there are going to be their loss of revenue from sticking with this policy will far outweigh any perceived benefit that they think is achieved by sticking with it.
Let's have a look at the actual match day walk-on prices then. I've heard quite a few people say that they're trying to force people into buying a season ticket by making match day prices. So
yeah, but that doesn't make sense, because they make the season tickets dearer, particularly for the young ones.
Lesser of two evils, though, isn't it, Raggy, buying a season ticket? So you look at those prices there. First off, what's all this Category 1 and Category 2 bollocks all about? The only big draw I can think is Bolton.
We didn't sell that out last year, did we?
No. So
how many times have we played Bolton and not sold out? Which is rather telling. We didn't sell out against Fleetwood. I know they're not in our league this year, but these are the type of games that will be Category 2. Sheffield Wednesday, maybe.
Wrexham, maybe Stockport.
Yeah, but this is what it is about. It's all about nobbling them for 31 quid or whatever. This is what this is all about, and it is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to them, but the worst thing is it's a disgrace for our walk-ups and when we go there, because they will. It's
the effect on our future. I think that's what boils a lot of people's piss over, the effect on our future of this football club with future fans, because we're not going to get any at this.
And like after said in his comments there, if you're in exile, a couple of quid booking fee on top of it. It's crazy prices for League One football.
And even if you do shell out and bring your kids along, they're not going to be hooked by what they're seeing on the pitch either.
It's just nonsense. So if doing stuff like that, and if he's going to invest £10 million this year and get us at the top of the league, and then he'll be able to justify it, won't he? But that's not going to happen. So I don't.
Well, it's like I said before, Raggy. Though, if you're at a point with a family where you physically can't afford it, to some degree, the signings become irrelevant, because it's I can't pay the money for my family to actually get in the ground, and people who wanted to buy season tickets in the first place, and then going match by match becomes even harder. Like Tim said,
I do. I totally get that. I mean, there's an element of truth that if we were super successful, that people will find, but that's only finding it from another end. They might well miss out on. I'm not going to have a takeaway for in a month, and I'll use that to do it. They will do things to get there if the product was super, but that it's terrible. It's little product, Waitrose prices, and Ronald McDonald running the show. So, with no Happy Meal on offer, unless you buy one of the Mariette Lounge for 1,200 quid.
You get a fist in. What more do you want?
Well, you get a fist in now and again. Could be worse.
Tim, yeah. I think the most outrageous decision that has been made in this season ticket pricing fiasco is the removal of the free pie at the Mariette Lounge. There'll be uproar with the Blue Harbour Brigade. Uproar.
I mean, we jest, and it is nothing like the scenario with the kids and the families, but yeah, there's a significant hike there, but there, and that doesn't make a huge amount of sense, because for me, it's the secondary spend up there. People who go up there will, particularly on a match-by-match basis, will often make a day of it and buy a few pints and whatever. And to be honest, as a season ticket holder up there, we'd only tend to turn up about half an hour, 40 minutes before the game. But it's the ones who do it on a one-off basis or 2 or 3 times a season who properly make a day of it, and they spend 2 or 3 times the admission while they're up there. And they're not even offering that this year. Instead, you can pay. They're trying to capture this group of people who presumably must exist or they think exist, who are going to pay the thick end of 1,200 quid to sit on that balcony. And then if they want, they can pay extra for a meal.
It's like, I don't. Who's come up with that? It's barking.
It said on the website, you can come and go as you please out onto that balcony.
Wow.
Match preview and team news as a benefit. Well, I seem to remember something like that.
I'm much more.
Presumably they're going to have somebody on the mic up there and change it a bit. Well, listen, I'm not. But they had it rocking up there, and with a lot of people spending money and anyway. But I just don't know who these people are, because listen, I wouldn't pay 1,200 quid to sit up there for the season. If I was going to pay,
even you,
extra,
Tim, even you.
If I'd go in envelope or something,
you won't part with a day's pay.
But 1,200 quid to sit on that balcony.
It's baffled me. I don't know what's gone on there.
It's mental.
Maybe if they whipped the old scarecrow out of the penthouse, maybe we'd pay 1,200 quid to have a season ticket up there.
They've only just come out today because they didn't release the Mariette, did they, originally? I think it's 1,190 something, 95 quid. I'm just thinking it was about, if I remember rightly, it was about 700 or 800 quid last year to do that. So there's a huge. I don't even know I can't do the percentage. I'm not really bothered because it doesn't interest me. And I didn't. I always wanted to go with my normal season ticket. I used to pay the upgrade, which is about 7 or 8 quid a game, to go up there. And it was good value. I'm not really bothered about the pie or the pint. It was a nice place to meet. But they're just creating a product. Listen, they must think there's mugs out there who will pay 1,200 quid. And if they do, we're not Liverpool. We're not Man United, which can, literally fill as many hospitality seats as they want with Japanese and American and whatever tourists. With Blackpool FC, and it's the product should be about us and the people in this town, and I just don't see where £1,200 per season ticket is in there. Even makes the cut. I mean, it's cheaper to go in the 53 club with an M block seat. That's 11. That's nearly. I don't know how much that's gone up. That's nearly 1,100 quid. I think that actually comes with a meal. So
let's Nick. So let's just come to you on this. Let's take the kids and the 18 to 21-year-olds out of the equation. For an adult season ticket, is it a reasonable price? 375.
Yeah, just about. I think, like I said at the start, 26 quid increase on last season. You know, we know the cost of living is going up. So I think, you know, the people who are probably going to renew, that increase, 26 quid wouldn't put people off in that category. I don't think that's the area for concern. I think that's probably the one that you'd go, overall, that's not too bad. It's just everywhere else that's the issue, like we've said. You know, I spoke to Jim before. We'll renew, but again, if you've had a couple of kids, it could be a very different story. So you can't just rely on that category of people renewing, and even in that category, some of my mates who decided that they're not going to renew and they were going to pick and choose the games, but looking at those and they would probably pick and choose the higher category games, but at that price. Again, some of them probably won't now. And quite a few times last season, I think 3 or 4, they did the upgrade to Mariette. Like Tim said, made a day of it, met in there at 1 o'clock or whatever, 6 or 7 pints, 1 at half 2 before, a couple at half time and after. And that spend's gone as well now. So it whichever way you look, bar, you know, like I say, our category, it just doesn't make sense.
Sandrine Army had 8 pints in there.
There you go.
That's what's taken up in there. Rich needs fest.
Get yourself to the Armfield, lad. You're the kind of customer we want.
I mean, that's the thick end of 50. That's the thick end of 50 quid. And Raggy will know more about the markup on that. But you know what I'm saying is that's the type of people who were spending money up there. I don't necessarily, I don't see where the numbers are coming from. And I might be wrong. You know, you might, if I go up there next year, I don't know whether I would do or not. But if I go up there and it's packed, then maybe they're right and we're wrong. But I can't see where the demand is for that.
Is this a new thing as well? This there's 2 tiers of early bird pricing. I've just noticed that it's 20 quid more if you're a new season ticket holder on an early bird.
No, it's almost like discouraging people who want to become Blackpool fans.
I mean, what's that about? What's that about?
Was that not the same last season, or was
I don't know, but
you paid 20 quid for if you wanted what do you call it, plastic card, as a one-off.
That's not what this is. This isn't what this
is.
No, I know,
yeah. So
that's discouraging people. When you see that figure, 400 quid, you'd balk, I think. I would.
It does. I don't understand why you would charge somebody who was wanting to become a season ticket holder for the first, maybe not for the first time, or just to maybe renew after maybe having if they've been away and they couldn't go, or maybe they couldn't afford it, and they decide that they're going to do it this year. Why you would make it more expensive than everybody else? I don't see the rationale behind the 2 tier. I suppose they think they're rewarding loyalty by making it cheaper, but to be honest, the ones who are loyal, they're not going. The 20 quid isn't going to make any difference, is it? You're not going to not renew because of 20 quid.
Take the 20 quid off and charge the kids some more.
There's not many 5 to 11-year-olds, Raggy. There's not many 5 to 11-year-olds go to Blackpool.
It don't matter to them, and they don't know about the money anyway. So dad's paying for it, innit? And the mum, so just throw it on.
So just a quick one then, because obviously we've been an hour about this. Just around the room or in the comments, what do people think? You know, if they were going to rethink it, what do you think is sensible in terms of the pricing? So if you left, our category at 375, but the ones where there is the biggest increase, what does anybody think is a sensible alternative?
Which category, Nick?
Well, the ones where there's the biggest increase, so the kids one and the 18 to 21, for example.
Well, I mean, seeing as Mr. Swansea Julian went on about minimum wage, and how that must our club's almost going to the wall because we have to pay minimum wage. what was the increase in that? 5%? 5% increase? So 5% increase.
The rate of inflation, which is now down to 2.5% under the Conservative government. So 2.5% inflation. So
I have a very hard time in feeling sorry for millionaires and things like that, mate. It's privileged to be able to do it. No one's not saying thank you for buying the club, but don't try and have people make us feel like we're affecting the club and being tight and things like that. That's not true at all. I've said this before. If the fans spend more money than the owner ever will, and I'll tell you how I come to that conclusion. That let's just say the average wage in that ground, if you took everyone, is 20 grand a year. Then people following Blackpool Football Club will spend £1,000 a year following them, home and away, and buying things. That's 5% of your income. Well, Mr. Sadler puts 5% of his in. We'll be having a good time in the Premier League.
I think most of us would. I'll go in the adult category here. Most of us would stomach a little bit more, and I'm not advocating for this, but if it came to it, I'd rather pay a little bit more for my season ticket and make sure that the kids' prices stayed as they were. That's what I'd be. That is my statement, Simon.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I think most people would live with that. There might be a few that whinge about it, but I think on balance, at the moment, you've got everybody rightly thinking this is wrong and needs changing. And if you're that desperate for the money that you thought you were going to make from the kids who aren't going to be there anyway, and apparently there aren't a lot of them, even though I see them quite a lot of them at the game.
I've literally got one in that category.
Well, I mean, there's loads of them. So
as my mate has as well. Yeah.
If we're that desperate, then go out to consultation, and we'll all have a whip round and make up the difference. But don't pick on the kids.
True, I'd agree with that. And find a 12-month plan for people to subscribe to the club.
Well, that segues into your point, I think, Tim, doesn't it, about what BST are looking to try and do on that front?
Yeah, I mean, the feedback we're getting is that this V12 scheme, a lot of people are failing credit checks, and if you think about it, a lot of the people who probably do want to stage payments in relation to season tickets will tend to be maybe the lower paid, maybe the ones with young families, and those who probably haven't got a credit history because they're 18, 19, 20, and they're probably buying their first season ticket when mum and dad might have bought it beforehand. So Raggy's idea is the best one. When I was on the interim board, I wanted to do it the first year we were there, but it was too fair. It was too tight time wise. But what you get people subscribed just like they do on Netflix and whatever else it is, and it's 30 quid a month or it's 35 quid a month per season ticket, and it runs 12 months a year, and it starts in April, or you have to make it up if you start it later, so that half the money's in before the season starts, and you've got regular income streams. Your drop-offs will probably be lower as well. Your admin's probably lower, but if you don't want to do that, and quite a few clubs do, including one down the road, they've been doing it for about 5 years. If you don't want to do that, then what you do is you either organise your own payment plan within the club. You can always cancel cards if people stop paying. I think even the Oystons did that at one time.
Oystons didn't even put the prices up when we got to the Premier League, Tim.
No. But I'm saying is they also, as I recall, they did their own internal subscription pricing at one time, which we could do, because it's only those who want to take advantage of that. But we don't want people failing. I don't know whether these credit checks impact on their credit history, but there's this could be, if they do, this could impact on people's getting mortgages and things of this nature if they fail credit checks. And I've Tom Main actually, he messaged me earlier, and he was saying that one of his good mates who had an exemplary credit record elsewhere failed the V12 credit check. So what BS and we're hoping to make some announcement before the end of the week. But what BST are looking at, and it's not, and again, even this isn't ideal because it will carry some interest charge, is an ethical credit facility where there's no check and it's only for relatively small amounts of money, but effectively would cover season ticket prices. And we're hoping to roll that out in conjunction with somebody. But there are other options as well. I know my brother, I don't think he minds me saying this because he said it on the forums. You know, he gets an interest-free credit card and just sticks them on there and pay and sticks up a direct debit to pay each month. So people can look at stuff like that, but other people can't. And so we're just trying to find a solution that really shouldn't be something that BST are having to do. It should be organised by the club. It keeps getting mentioned at every forum I've ever been to about why can't we do something like this, and there's always some bullshit excuse as to why we can't. And I'm saying it like that because that's what I think about it. It's a disgrace that we're not a disgrace we're putting prices up for kids. It's a disgrace that we're not thinking about the low income and the ones who haven't got the disposable spend and making it easy for them. So and it's a no-brainer because we all know what we do is people. It's the same with gym memberships. You sign up, and even if you don't go, you don't stop it. And that's why a lot of these subscription schemes work. It should be fantastic at a football club. And who's gonna notice 30 quid, 30, well, if it's 30, it might even charge a bit more for doing it. 35 quid a month going out of their account.
They'd make more over the year. They'd make more over the year. People would be happy to pay 30, 35, 40 quid a month. They'd set it up. It'd be affordable for a lot of people. I know loads, and I mean like dozens of people that I've spoken to. So
well, Raggy, your 35 quid a month is 420 quid a year.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
40,
They'd be happy to pay that.
quid a month is 48. So £480 a year.
And people would be happy because I know you pay out a season, but look, some games they'll be going to 3 games a month sometimes for 35 quid. That's how they all look at it.
Yeah,
and it's just. And you know, I know there has to be stipulations in there and some form of well, not punishment's the wrong word, but if you cancel, you know, you're not getting back on this. You're not getting back on this scheme. You know, you need to have some sort of thing because you can't have 1,000 people cancelling halfway through the season. But if you start it proud of the season by a few months, you've already got that backup in case something does go drastically wrong like that. But I just think I genuinely, you know, hundreds, if not into the thousands of more people on season tickets who wouldn't do that. I know plenty of people who do walk up things, but if they were doing that and they just thought 30, 35 quid a month, they would just sign up to it. Yeah. So much easier. And then there's a whole raft of things that could be done after that, isn't there? You know, there's no more discounts or anything. Is the season tickets? Don't even get a 1% off in the club shop or anything, do you? There's so many more things. But why they don't attach Tangerine TV to your season ticket as well? And you'll have potentially 10,000 people watching Tangerine TV. Surely that allows you to then sell advertisement on Tangerine TV because you've got so many viewers. I don't know how all that works, but I'm sure it's something like that. Don't know why they don't do this. You get your season ticket, you automatically subscribe to that.
Yeah.
I mean, what's Tangerine TV? A couple of quid a month. Work that out. Add it on. Put it. Do all that. I just don't think there's anyone thinking about it. And I know we convince ourselves that people with money know better than people that haven't. But the older I get, I'm not so sure that's true.
Okay. Let's leave that there. Mitch has just dropped in a comment. It sums the situation up. It's a disgrace to Blackpool Football Club.
That sums it up just about perfectly.
Rather apt.
Where have we heard those words before?
Well, we all are apparently, aren't we? So.
Yep. Right, we've just got a few little bits to cover. Before we go, Iain Brunskill's left the coaching staff, which leaves potentially a spot for the much coveted, experienced right-hand man that we have been pressing for throughout most of last season. Who do we want in there? I put a poll on Twitter, and Gary Bowyer was the standout contender. Do we think he'll come, and will he do a good job, Nick?
I suppose it depends if he's got any other offers. Do I think he'd do a good job? Yeah, I think he would. Certainly talks a lot of sense when he does his Radio Lancs commentary. And I think, it would be good to have someone with that sort of experience. I think that's maybe, we've talked about this before. People who understand the game or have played the game. He's got a heck of a lot of management experience. Listening to the CEO interview, I think they mentioned it, and it sounded like it had come out of the blue. I think he's been offered a job somewhere in Europe, I think it said. So yeah, for me, somebody with experience, I think, would be the key requisite for me, and I suppose we will see if that happens.
Yes, there's a fans forum coming up on the back of season ticket gate. We've all had an email, haven't we? Coming through.
I'll try and retract my email now. It'll probably be bouncing back right about now anyway. So
on an invite-only basis, I think that's the
yeah.
That was the caveat on the email, wasn't it? So I don't think any of us will be invited.
Do you not think we'll have front seats, John?
I think we'll all be ghosted.
They should. They should be fronting it up.
Yeah, I take training on Mondays anyway, so I can't go.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to listen unless there's a reversal of these policies. I'm not sure I want to listen to them, justify them, to be honest. But I'm going to keep my powder dry, and I'll make a decision at the time as to whether I apply. Do I think I'll get an invite? If I do, I would be quite surprised, I suspect, if I did.
It's a long time between now and then. Anything can happen.
It's Blackpool, Raggy. It's Blackpool. Anything.
Well, and this is why we love it, isn't it? This is why we love it. We thrive when mayhem comes our way, but we don't want it. Can we not just have a period of time where we haven't got complete and utter chaos going off somewhere? But then again, we had that last year on the pitch, boring, and we don't do boring very well, do we?
Definitely don't.
You lot will look hilarious in your curly wig and specs disguise.
I want to see Raggy with the curly hair that we.
I'll go as Afro Man.
Anyone got a spare fedora?
Oh dear. I see he got he was appealing the Blackpool Council's decision to charge him council tax for occupying the penthouse. He took it to appeal and lost again this week. Which, at least he's keeping his 100% record up, isn't he? Anyway,
well, you got to hand it to him. He's consistent, isn't he? He won't go away.
One more thing before we go. Retained list. Won't read it all out because there was a lot of youth and development squad players have gone. But contract options exercised on Sonny Carey, Jake Daniels, Jake Moore, Richard O'Donnell, Harvey Bardsley. Players leaving the club. Standouts for me were Callum Connolly, Ekpiteta, Brad Holmes, Shayne Lavery, and Matty Virtue. No surprises there. Still in contract discussions with Jimmy. Thoughts on that, Nick?
Look, sorry, go on.
No, yeah, no massive surprises in there. Probably a shame to see Marv go, but I think it was on the cards, wasn't it? It'll be interesting to see where he does end up. I think in the right team, where he's played to his strength, he can certainly play at championship level. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Bit of a shame with Lavery, but just with his injuries, he wasn't the same player after that injury in the home game against Blackburn. Really, kind of came back and showed glimpses, but then would pick up another injury. I think with him, unfortunately, the injuries as he did with all players, but particularly with him, that his style of play, he needed to stay fit, and with those injuries, it just set him back each time. Great on his day, and would have been great if he could have stayed fit and found that consistency. But it never really happened, unfortunately. So, yeah, no massive surprises really for me overall. I get Brad Holmes a bit of a shame because at one point we thought he was going to be one who was potentially going to push on into the first team, and it would have been great to see that happen, but kind of just leveled off, I think, a little bit. So, yeah, no massive surprises really.
Anyone else got any thoughts?
No, just thank Marv for his service. I think he's been a great player for a few years for us, and sad to see him go. And just endorse what Nick says about Lavery. Really, it's a shame with Lavery, but I think it's time for both club and player to move on.
Maggie?
And just with Matty Virtue, really, who we're going to bring on now on 65, 70 minutes.
You didn't get that
Travesty.
One thing just before we head off. Euro 24 patron sweepstake. We are running one for the patrons of our show, and the winner will get £50 in club shop vouchers. The runner-up will get £30 in club shop vouchers. I think we ran this for the last major tournament. It was a bit of a laugh. So
you could do it towards a season ticket.
Yeah. Or gift a kid a season ticket.
Let's not go back there.
We can't afford that.
So yeah, if anyone wants to play, you need to be an active patron of the pod. Patreon.com/SeasidersPod if you want to get involved. It is a bit of a laugh. Right, I think we'll leave it there, gents. I think we've said everything that we want to say, haven't we, on this? Where do we move forward as a club and as fans?
Well, we need the club. We need the club to react to the scenario that they've created, the shitstorm they've created with this. Need good leadership at the top from Simon and from Julian to realise this is a bad decision and change it. We've articulated what our views are. I know Twitter has been full of it. AVFTT, there's been some great comments on there by a lot of people, and the fans groups will also, if they haven't already, I'm sure, be making their own representations. BSTs is out there. I'm sure Raggy et al. Will have something to say, and I'd expect others to have to say as well. I'd encourage anybody to write into the club and just the quill. Let's bomb them with all our comments. So if they are not listening to this, if they're not reading AVFTT, which I'm pretty sure they are, that they're left under no illusion as to what we all think of it.
Absolutely, Tim. Right, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks for your input this evening, gents. Tim, coming off your strenuous, rain-soaked walking football pitch, and
it was like a drowned rat.
If you'd have run, you'd have missed the rain.
John tried off Raggy.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, calf strain. Walked too fast last week.
He's the Shayne Lavery of walking football.
We're going to release him from the pod. Some good comments tonight as well, I have to say. It was, there was some great stuff in the comments as well.
Yeah,
good numbers on, I believe, as well.
Yeah, 500 plus. Very therapeutic. Thanks, chaps. Right, well, most thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for downloading. And up the pool. Up the pool.
Up the pool.
Down prices.
Up the pool.